I know there's a lot of you, but if you could please sign in and write your address when you come in, great. And then whenever you step up to the podium, please state your name and address. Okay. One is present. Moving on to item 2, which is approval of the minutes from May 6th, 2026. Do I hear a motion? Second?
Second.
Favor? Aye. All right. This next section is the public comment section. This is for open comment about anything not on tonight's agenda. Public hearings are open to the public. Comment during these times. The chairperson, me, may consider requests for comments related to agenda items without a public. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment now that's not about tonight's agenda? Please state your name and address.
My name is Kevin Scrutch. I live at 60 Lookout Ridge Drive in the Lookout Ridge Townhomes. Just an overall comment is I've attended a few meetings. I think I'm reasonably astute. I have a hard time following all the town of Dillon, but particularly this commission. It's kind of hard for me to have a look into what you're doing. You know, I try and read the website and things, but what's the best way for me to educate myself? For example, I attend these meetings, I give you my name and my address, never gotten an email about anything. It seems to me like there's an opportunity for me to learn how to find out what's going on, but also for the commission to educate the community on what's going on. So how do I educate myself? And then how could you better get messages out to the community about what you're doing? So we can be more involved in our community.
I take it that since you attend the meetings, you are aware of the online portal where you can sign up to receive the agendas?
No, but when I come to a meeting and I give you my email address, I assume that maybe that's wrong for me to assume that you're doing something
We
with that
can't sign
information.
you up, but we'll be happy to get you.
Okay, could we put on the sheet? Do you want to be, if you want to be signed up for meetings, check this box. Is that possible?
That's a thought we could consider. Thank you for that.
Okay. And what else can I do besides going to the website and trying to do that sort of stuff? Is there anything that I'm missing?
I guess it just depends on what kind of information you're looking
I'd
for.
kind of like to know about everything you're doing so that I'm not surprised by the bigger projects.
Okay. Well, they do send out, the town sends out several silos of emails pretty regularly. There's always meeting notes, and all of these meetings are recorded virtually.
Right.
So if you want to go back and watch them, that's available as well. We can't talk about what things are going to happen in the future until they come before us.
Understood.
Um,
Well, I think to simplify this, if we can do a better job, me and you, all of us, about making sure everybody's on that email list, because I didn't know there was an email list. I'm not on it. If I can get on that, I think that would solve,
yeah,
not
I would
90%
say
of
go
this.
to the Town of Dillon website and just subscribe to all of the emails. I think there's like a whole form you can fill out and pick all the different silos of like events and town happenings and town council, and there's a lot.
Okay, I'll do that.
And the other thought with that too is, sometimes when you sign up on the spreadsheet here, it's usually pertaining to a specific item, maybe not a broad, the broad general of what we're doing, what's going on. It's more of like to have your contact information in case, town staff needs to contact you for, hey, you signed in for this specific meeting, do you have, so if you want something more general or broad, like, hey, what's going on with the planning commission or the town of Dillon, the website has all the information. I don't know if staff could help you at some point if you came in to like sign up for everything like that. That might be helpful.
Okay. Well, it does seem to me like there's an opportunity at these meetings for when someone comes in to capture their information and steer them to that sort of stuff. So perhaps we could do that in the future.
Yeah, we can certainly create a QR code, for instance, that
Perfect.
links you right to that page for signing up. I think that's
Okay.
a great idea.
That'd be great.
We'll
I
do
appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay, and then thanks for all that you do. I appreciate it. I know you can't please all the people all the time, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Speak now or forever wait till the end. Okay.
Wait till next month.
We have a lot of people here, so we're going to keep it moving. We're going to start out with the consideration of resolution PZ 05-26, series of 2026. This is a resolution approving an application for a class 1 sign permit for installation of a permanent freestanding sign at the Point Dillon Commons. We will start with a staff report from Ned.
John's going to lead this one.
Cool.
Good evening, Commissioners. The town has received an application for a Class 1 permanent freestanding sign at Point Dillon Commons condominiums located at 413 West Labonte Street. The Point Dillon HOA proposal includes the installation of a permanent metal lettering and artwork mounted to the face of an existing boulder. The boulder will remain in its natural state and the sign components securely affixed at the height that provides visibility from the street. The property is located in within sign zone A, where the maximum permitted height for a permanent sign is 6 feet. I went out today and measured, and the boulder is 3 feet, and it is within the property line, which it needs to be, and it needs to be set back 5 feet from that, which it is. So it does meet code. And with that, I'd recommend approval of this application.
When I was looking at or is there anything from the applicant?
Arch. Yep.
Can you come up to the podium? Yeah, thank you.
We've been doing some modest landscaping improvements. That's a rather enhanced version. I don't think we're gonna get that colorful, at least not this year. And if you can read the text on the boulder, that's not correct. The landscaper got a little carried away. It will probably say 413 Point Dillon. All right, that's the wrong name for that condo complex. Any questions?
So based on the renderings, there's a site plan and this, it looks nice, but I can tell that this is AI. Is that, so that rock exists?
The rock is there.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, I can't tell because this is showing a, AI rendering, so I didn't know if that was just superimposed or what.
It is a rendering, yes.
Okay, so what I would suggest is, I mean, I would recommend approval with just a condition that maybe, because the site plan that was viewed, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't see where so it's a hand-drawn site plan. I have no idea where the building is. I don't know where, there's 3 points where it says entry, sign. So I would just say maybe use the vicinity map or something to point exactly where that sign is going to be. So that way there's evidence in the material, in the actual permit of where it'll be. And then somehow, if it is actually 5 feet, as you're saying, you verified that, so, but
I get
maybe
it.
something that, because it's great that we can see this in, like person and drive by, but based on the plans, if anyone else, like, as I looked at this, I had no idea, like, if the rock existed, I didn't know where it was on the site plan. So something just calling out where it is on the site plan, a little bit more clearly, and then, just some indication that it's 5 feet from the property line or something like that. So that would be my suggestion, is just to submit something to staff, so that way, it can be shown that it's actually in compliance.
Yeah.
So that would be my
I can provide a
recommendation.
GIS map of that too.
Okay,
That's
Okay.
what I use to look at it.
so I don't know if there's any other discussion?
Do we want to do any like verification that the size of the sign isn't going to change if the words are going to change? If it changes from point, whatever it is, to set 419.
Guessing since it's on the rock's not gonna change, but I mean, what's the maximum size is, this maximum size of the sign, is that the entire rock?
Probably.
So I mean, the rock's not gonna change, so,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing staff would like to see what you're actually gonna have on there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
got
for
it.
verification. We can't, you know, it'll be really helpful, I'm sure, for you to have your address on there.
Yeah, I think that's a better idea.
Anyone else?
Suzanne, are you recommending an amendment to the resolution or just advising staff to be sure that prior to us issuing the permit, that we have a thorough documentation?
I would, I
attached.
mean, I don't necessarily need the resolution amendment unless I think that's necessary in order to get what you need. So,
Well,
if-
it sounds like John can put this together. He's done the field investigation. We'll
Okay.
work with Art to verify that.
Okay.
And also get the final cut sheet on what the steel will be attached to the rock.
Okay.
As we're putting together the permit.
yeah, I don't want to hold up a sign
Great.
permit.
Thank you for bringing that up.
So you'll get the kind of metal material that'll be made out and everything, so it doesn't rust and.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move we approve resolution PZ 0526, series of 2026, a resolution approving an application for a class 1 sign permit for installation of a permanent freestanding sign at the Point Dillon condominiums.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Art.
All right, we are moving on to consideration of resolution PZ 04-26, series of 2026. This is a public hearing. Yep. This is what most of you came for, I'm assuming. This is a resolution by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Dillon, Colorado, recommending the approval of a level 4 development application for a planned unit development for a new multi-family residential apartment complex at 312 Dillon Ridge Road, Dillon, Colorado. We will start with a staff summary from one of you.
If you would please review the
Oh.
script with the public.
Cool.
Maybe just highlight some of the elements and actually the applicant will go first.
All right. This is a public hearing for our applicant. So members of the public will be permitted to give comments in the matters related to the hearing item for application. All online attendees, there's a few, are requested to mute their mics at this time. We'll call on you one at a time virtually. All citizen testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Commenters will be called upon by name and are asked to provide their name and address for the record. In a moment, members of the online public desiring to speak will be asked to unmute their lines and state their names for the Planning Commission Secretary. When it is time for the public comment portion of the hearing, the Planning Commission Secretary will announce the names of the members of the public desiring to speak in the order received. Comments or questions received in the Microsoft Teams chat will not be considered by the Planning Commission. All right. Start with you. I got both of them. So we're going to start with the people online.
All right, we will be starting with public comment for those that are online. If anybody online would like to make a public comment at this time, please go ahead and raise your hand and,
Sorry, Ben, this
Oh.
is to sign up for public comment?
oh, to sign up for public comment, go ahead and raise your hand and then we will be taking public comment in the order the hands are raised for online.
Start with the applicant or public comments?
The public comments follow the presentation so
Okay.
that they can, or
Cool. All right, well, we will start with the presentation from the applicant.
nobody online seems to have raised their.
Raise your hand. Thank you.
Did you want to make us a presenter? Yeah. Mallory Mooney. I will not be giving the presentation. I'm just getting us set up. Thank you.
And Mallory, can you move the microphone closer to your mouth?
Yes, how's that?
What's better? I can hear you, but maybe someone online could write a quick comment to say if they can hear us properly.
Sorry, we're already not working. Hold on. Mhm.
Alice, did you formally open the public hearing?
No.
Her presentation needs to be part of that. Oh,
Okay. I will state for the record that the public hearing is officially open at 5:46. You are good to go.
Zach Holt, 814 West Bleecker Street, Unit C2, Aspen, Colorado. First, a big thank you to those here from the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town of Dillon Planning Department, and residents of Dillon for listening to us today and helping guide our path thus far. My name is Zach Holt. I live in Aspen. I've been living and working in Colorado for nearly a decade, and my earliest childhood memories are from the Roaring Fork Valley, where my late father had a home before losing it to the bank during the Great Recession. And while I've been jokingly referred to as a carpetbagger, I'm married to a sixth-generation Aspen local, and we're expecting the first of my family's seventh generation this October. Page West co-founder Adam Wallace, here today, has lived in Denver since 2018, and his family has a house up here in Dillon, where you'll find him most weekends with his fiancee, Lindsay. He's getting married down the road at Keystone this September, and you'd find the two of them biking, hiking, or skiing around the county every weekend they can. Adam and I are the founders of Page West. Page West is owned in partnership with a 60-plus-year-old family-owned investment company that has developed over 10,000 homes and 600,000 square feet of commercial space across the Mid-Atlantic for long-term ownership. Uniquely, our partner has never taken outside capital. That means no private equity, life insurance company, or external investor influence. Prior to us co-founding Page West, and over 2+ decades of collective experience, Adam and I have built, led, and supported small teams that successfully completed the development, redevelopment, or repositioning of over 6,000 apartment units and hotel keys, 405,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and office space, and approximately 66,000 acres of land assets across the United States. Dillon is facing a long-term rental shortage. Approximately 65% of Dillon's housing units are used for short-term rentals or seasonal vacation use. Further, Summit County's September 2023 Housing Needs Assessment called out a rental housing shortage of approximately 1,300 units, or 2,800 units in total, if including for sale housing. I've experienced this housing shortage firsthand. I've lived in a basement lock-off where the windows began at my chin and ended just above the top of my head across the street here in Dillon, above a barn in Woody Creek, and in deed restricted housing in Aspen before ultimately purchasing a townhome several years ago with my wife. Professionally managed long-term for rent housing fills a critical need in mountain communities by providing stable housing for local working individuals and families employed as your teachers, first responders, childcare providers, skilled trades, mountain ops folks, and those within local government. Since the Great Recession, housing starts have substantially lagged demand, well before our mountain communities face the existential over-demand threat posed by Airbnb, VRBO, and other short-term rental companies. Long-term for-rent housing gives working families and essential workers the opportunity to live and work in Dillon while creating a pathway to home ownership. Thank you for hosting us today. I'll now pass it off to our partner, Elena Scott with Norris Design.
Thank you, Zach. Can you guys hear me okay? I'll try to be really loud and not too fast, but my name is Elena Scott with Norris Design, 409 Main Street, Frisco, Colorado. Thank you to Ned and to the staff for assisting us through this 9-month process to get to this time for a public hearing. And also thanks to the Planning Commission and all the public for being here today to learn a little bit more about the Skyline Apartments. Up on the screen right now, you'll see the proposed site. It's about 4.1 acres. It is currently the site of the Skyline Cinema 8. I did want you all to know that we do have a special guest in the room today with Brian Mitchell from Mitchell Theaters. So if there are any specific questions about theater and things like that, we do have a guest of honor today with us to talk about the future of the property. What's important about this site to know is that in about 2017, right next door, multifamily was also developed in a mixed-use zone district, which is the same zone district that we are in. And at that time, the site was subdivided, and that's how we became Block 5 of the Dillon Ridge Marketplace. I also wanted to point out the black dotted line that's around the entirety of the Dillon Ridge Marketplace. That's an important distinction because as the site has an underlying zone of mixed use, we also have a PUD overlay. And so that's really what we are amending today with this PUD application to bring housing to the site. The last thing that's really important that's on the screen now is that not only are we controlled by zoning, but we're also controlled by covenants and restrictions as part of being in the Dillon Ridge Marketplace that have competition clauses in them. That competition clause means that we can't develop anything on this site that is in competition with something else in the center. So specific retail, hotel uses, restaurants, things of that nature, sporting goods stores, those are all out of the question per the CCNRs. And because the mixed use district does allow for multifamily residential and the town has an overarching goal to create mixed use opportunities and walkable opportunities for future workforce, that's our goal with this site plan application and PUD. I know there are a lot of people that are sad about the Skyline Cinema 8 closing. This has been a challenge for movie theaters across the country, especially with streaming and after COVID. And what we really want to do here is not leave a site vacant as the movie theater begins to close. The site is not, the movie theater will be closing regardless of this project opportunity, but wanted to come into partnership with Page West to deliver something so that we continue to have an active, vibrant Dillon Ridge area. And again, that competition clause directly from the CCNRs, the primary business of the new user shall not directly conflict or compete with the primary businesses of other businesses occupying space in the shopping center. Another reason why it's great to do residential in this location is that not putting more commercial here could help us to boost more commercial growth in the town core, which is something that was really important during the Dillon community conversations that just happened that were led by Trace from the Keystone Policy Center. So really it helps us to kind of put different uses where they belong and hopefully create some more reinvestment in other areas of town with additional housing available and not new commercial in competition with other areas that could support growth in commercial uses. This isn't a zoning map. This is more of an overarching land use map. In red, you'll see properties that are mixed use and commercial, including the town core, the Dillon Ridge Marketplace, and other shopping areas off of Highway 6. You can see where we have some higher density residential adjacent to the site. We have multifamily at both Dillon Ridge and Lookout. And then across the lakefront by the town center, we have multiple high-density condominiums at 4 and stories tall plus. Having housing in this location is a great transition from the commercial areas. It puts residents in walking distance to multiple hotels, City Market, REI, the Dillon Vale Health Center, and other things that really could always use a boost in having access to more housing for the local workforce. In addition, as any of us who are familiar with Dillon know, Dillon is a very amenity rich. We have parks, open spaces, trails, some of the best views. And so those are things that were really important to us through this process. This site is adjacent to transit. We are within about a half mile of multiple parks, including the Dillon Town Park, the amphitheater, the marina, which also includes another playground. And we're also about a mile from the Silverthorne Rec Center. So all things that are great for living and working in Dillon. One more. The red dashed line, that's a little bit hard to see, but the town installed a 10-foot sidewalk a couple of years ago to connect from the Vale Health Center up to Lake Dillon Drive. As part of our application, we're proposing to create a better connection to that sidewalk and to continue that through Dillon Ridge in a safer manner with more traffic calming and safety for people that are walking. As you can tell by Zach's intro, the client Page West does care a lot about talking to people and getting information. Before we submitted our application, we had multiple discussions, including 2 community open houses at Bistro North. Those were both several hours long so that we could talk to as many people as possible. And then we've had multiple meetings with the Piney Acres folks, and we'll continue to talk through any questions that people have as we work through the project and the process. We don't just do community input just to talk to people and to get to know them, but also to really think about what kind of feedback we can integrate into our site plan. Preservation, a view of the mountains, Brad from our architecture firm will share some really great graphics about that. We wanted to make sure that we met our parking requirement. That's something that was mentioned by several folks. We didn't want the parking to be visible from North Dillon Dam Road and Dillon Ridge Road, so that when you came up, it was more of a nice welcoming into the center and really truly felt like a mixed use community. We wanted to talk to local employers about how we can get people to apply for these units and how we can make sure that they stay available for the local workforce first. The building design, we got a lot of feedback on the aesthetics and ensuring that we would comply with the mountain lake style design guidelines and really make it feel like a mountain development. We will be allowing dogs. We do have a dog park within the community. And then we wanted to include year-round use within our amenities because hopefully we have 8 months of winter coming again soon. We'd have several letters of support from businesses as part of this process and getting to know people, including Vale Health, Arapahoe Basin, and the owners and managers of the shopping center. There are people that are looking for additional types of housing rather than the ones that we have, and having this rental available with our proposed deed restriction is something that can really support the community, and especially businesses in Dillon that are really striving to grow and promote economic development here in this community. The site context is really important. It's an important part of the code and it's an important part of design. Right now, you have the Dillon Road elevation at the corner. Everybody knows that big staircase by REI. That's a 30-foot grade change from the road up to the top of the parking lot right now. It's an overall 60-foot grade change from the road to the furthest northeast corner. So we're dealing with a significant amount of topography on this site while trying to meet height, parking, building design, and create a really livable environment for residents. When I look at this staircase, I don't think that that seems like a great connection for a future resident, especially in the winter, to access things that they want to walk to, like transit. So we worked really hard with our architecture partner and our civil engineers to create a design that brought the buildings down closer to the street level to really make it feel like a mixed use community and to offer a diversity of units. Our site plan is on the screen now. There are 3 buildings. Buildings 1 and 2 are multifamily apartments. They are studios, 1 beds and 2 bedrooms. We also have a significant amount of covered parking living in the winter here can be challenging. Having an option for a garage is really great for future residents. We have a third building that is a townhome building that's closest to our access road and Dillon Ridge Apartments. Those are 7 3-bedroom townhomes. Those will also be in the rental pool. So truly creating something a little bit different. We don't have a lot of rental options like that in Summit County as a whole, but on this site, to bring the scale down on that edge, we did create a townhome option that also has covered parking. We have indoor and outdoor amenities. We have snow storage, and the public sidewalk that I mentioned before is along Dillon Ridge Road. Through a significant effort working with Kroger and REI and the town, we have created a 6-foot wide sidewalk that's increasing it from the sidewalk that's there now, areas for snow storage, landscape with seating along that edge, and bringing the road width down to 26 feet, which is the fire apparatus width requirement, but also helps to slow traffic down. Right now, people coming down that hill can sometimes tend to go a little too fast. And what we want to do is ensure that we continue that traffic calming element and really maintain the same width of road as we move in front of these apartments. We have proposed a 20% deed restriction for workforce housing on the site. In addition to that, we will have a priority leasing process. What that means is that whenever a unit comes available, any unit in the complex, the first locals on the list in particular with Dillon businesses would have the first access to those units regardless of it's deed restricted or not. So putting in different methods on an all privately funded development to make sure that we can provide housing to those who need it in this community first. We've also banned short-term rentals on this site. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Brad with Crane Architecture, who's going to walk through some building height graphics for us.
Right. And my name is Brad Gassman. I'm with Crane Architecture in Denver, 2490 Welton Street. And I'm here with Dan Crane tonight to talk about our project up in Dillon. So I'm going to go through a couple slides here where we talk a little bit about code allowances and then some of the existing topography, and then we'll get into more of the character of the buildings. But this first one is a little bit of a complex diagram, but we're trying to show you the code allowances and then the existing conditions and what our building proposes. So to the left, you see what the code allows, and this is based off an elevation at the parking lot level. So you've got a 35-foot height limit to the ridge of the building, and then there's an additional 8 feet allowed for mechanical equipment, vents, elevator, penthouses, architectural features, that sort of thing. So you end up with a 43-foot height limit by the time you add those features to it. In comparison, the red box is a little outline that shows you where the theater is today. So the theater is obviously lower, but it's really in line with the kind of the top of our third floor level of windows there. And then the black and white image on the back end there that you see, that's actually our building and shows you how we've got kind of a main ridge that runs through the building. And then we've got elements where we've got some architectural gable features that step up. And we'll talk more about those, but that, that point there is actually, a foot plus lower than what the allowance is if you look from measuring everything from the parking area. When we were laying this out and designing it, we thought that the strict adherence to the 35 and the 8 kind of created boxier type buildings. So we spent a lot of time working with a roof form that would really encapsulate the mechanical equipment and hide all of those elements within the roof, and had vertical gables that went along the architectural facade to kind of break the mass up and step it as the building goes across the site. This diagram gets into a little bit more of the site and the comparison with where the current theater is. So the theater is shown in red. And as Elena said, kind of the biggest challenge of this site is from the northeast corner to the southwest corner, we have approximately 60 feet of grade differential. So it's really drops off pretty dramatically. And as everyone knows, the level of the parking lot is pretty far up from the street level. because the slope of the building, or because of the extreme slope, the building height for building 1 and building 2, building height measures at plus or minus 53 feet, and then building 2 is at about 41 feet as measured from a zoning perspective. But as we go back to the last diagram we looked at, when you measure it from the parking lot level, you really see that it's a 3-story building that just drops down to meet the street level. We maintain mountain views. We spent a lot of time trying to study that and understand how we try to maintain the views by breaking up the character defining roof forms. So those larger gables aren't the entire extent. It's broken up. We've kept the main ridge as low as we can. And we've also pushed the building as far south as possible to give a lot of distance between the back property line and kind of the street edge there. And overall, you see in the top diagram where we step down to the street, that step there really happens below that third level datum, and it helps us create a condition where we go down and really meet the street. And it allows us to have 2-story units down there that are really mezzanine units, not 2-story units. So they'd have like a loft mezzanine space in it. And then that helps reduce the size of the retaining walls that would need to be along that street edge. Did you have a?
So in the top diagram, Dillon Ridge Road is to the left?
That's to the left, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So you would contend that, again, from the parking lot height,
Correct.
you're within code. But the reality is if we measure from an adjacency right at Dillon Ridge Road, full height in what's effectively the front will exceed that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's Dillon Ridge Road right there. Yep. And just for looking at the bottom diagram, just for a little comparison as well, that's a east-west section. That's from the parking lot level. So that's the 3-story element that you see of our buildings. And, in comparison, Dillon Ridge Apartments right next door are actually a little bit higher. So we've actually stepped down. Okay, I'll use the hand command here.
Excuse me. Can you tell me what the purpose of the gables are?
So the gables really they come from the design guidelines, talk a lot about the mountain and lake character and aesthetic. And those gables are really part of that defining architectural character that's talked about quite extensively in the design guidelines to help create Dillon's lake style mountain architecture.
Okay, so they don't see or anything in them?
On the inside, I'll use this here. Can you see this area right here, kind of in between? So you see right there, that's an area where, yep, thank you, Elena. The roof actually slopes up, and then we create an area that's a flat zone in the center of that building, which you can't perceive from the street or anywhere around it. And our mechanical equipment and all of our equipment lives in that zone. So instead of having a situation where we've got, let's say, a flat roof and then a mechanical screen that wraps around it, we've used the roof forms itself as an opportunity to hide all of that equipment, because I think it's in character with what the guidelines are asking for, to use architectural roof forms to create this mountain aesthetic, lake style aesthetic, and to really hide those elements so it feels like a cohesive design.
And again, the units that are at essentially the level of Dillon Ridge Road are kind of loft.
Yep. So right there where the hand is and where Elena is pointing.
Yep, those were loft units.
Yeah. So they're what we call a mezzanine unit. So they've got a small loft above the main living space.
Okay, so the roof, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I understand this. So the roof there is, that whole roof is as high as the gables on the street side?
Yes, so
So
this,
that is actually higher than code?
when measured,
I mean, is it higher than the extra 8 inches? Or 8 feet, I'm sorry.
so it's as measured from the parking lot level in the diagram we showed, it's about a foot lower than the 43
Okay. Thank you.
dimension.
Thank you.
And that's measured just from that parking lot level there, just as a diagram to kind of understand the conditions there. Yeah, so that over there is the Dillon Ridge Apartments. So everybody's familiar with that. So as you, existing, yep. And then as you come across, we've got townhomes that are adjacent to the Dillon Ridge Apartments there. And then you're seeing the back side, which is our parking lot side of the apartment buildings. And then as you move all the way over to the right, that's where the grade is very steep and you see it steps down then to the access point behind, alongside REI.
So we're standing on the west side of the property looking east?
East-west. Standing on the north.
Bottom one.
You're looking south.
Looking south.
You're looking at that bottom diagram, you're looking towards the lake.
The bottom is the bottom section is viewed from where that blue star on the very top of that diagram is.
Right, from Piney Acres,
So if you're looking down towards it.
the neighborhood behind.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Just, briefly getting into a little bit of the design aesthetic. So the design really draws from historic Dillon buildings and contemporary mountain architecture. Key influences include character defining gables and sheds, and that really comes out of the design guidelines. Deep overhangs, exposed structures, and strong stone bases that really emphasize the mass of the building. These elements create a regional mountain character without directly copying historic buildings and align with the mountain lake style architecture of Dillon. And this gets a little bit kind of a blown up diagram we can get into here to talk about that. But I'm going to start with something that Elena's already talked about, but we reduced the width of Dillon Ridge Road down to 26 feet to really provide a nicer, stronger, pedestrian scaled street environment. And in doing that, we took, like we talked about, that lower level there, and we dropped that down to that road level, or as close to the road level as we can, to really put eyes on that street and to create a sense of scale down there that's pleasant for pedestrians to really walk along. So it engages the street environment. You can understand by looking at that diagram, if you don't do that, you're going to have retaining walls there that actually get you up to that level. So this is something that, in studying it and looking at wall options, we really came back to ourselves and said, this is a great opportunity for the town here to really lower that and create a great pedestrian environment along that.
And those mezzanine apartments will have entry from the Ridge Road side?
So they'll have patios out there.
Yep.
Yep. And so direct engagement. That's great. A couple important things I think is, about the planning, and Elena got into it a little bit, but we really pulled the building out. We wanted to engage the streetscape. That was kind of really a primary driver, but that also allows us to put all the parking to the backside of that. So now you don't have the parking that's right on the street edge there. It's really something that's hidden and it's really pedestrian focused along Dillon Ridge Road. Yep.
And it's one in, they're double garages, one in front of the other. Is that, they're just singles? Singles. Okay.
Yep.
I have a question about your parking. Do they have to pay? Do they have to pay extra for a garage?
I'll have to turn, yes.
Yes, okay, so if, let's say, nobody wants to pay extra, do you have enough parking? I'm just saying, I just am curious.
Yeah.
Also, you should have 7 ADA parking spots for the amount of parking you have, not 6, according
Okay.
to Colorado code.
Okay. We'll look into that, but yeah,
Okay.
okay.
thank you.
Just looking quickly at the rendering kind of at the top, you really see how the grade really there slopes very strongly. So that by stepping that down and embracing that with the mezzanine units down there, we think it really does a nice job embracing the street. And then we kind of bring that datum of stone kind of in at that level so that that is, again, back to the guidelines where you talk about the weightiness of a building and really grounding it down to the site. So I'm going to slide on to the next one. And just a couple character images here that we'll run through. Townhomes, we kind of talked about the location of those a little bit previously, but really we utilize the townhomes at the northeast corner of the site to help us transition really to the neighborhood scale of the apartments next door. We think it's a nice scale break between that and then the apartment buildings that move down the hill that we were just looking at. Like the apartments, they have repeated gables, shed roof forms, and they reflect the Dillon Mountain character. We're looking at deep overhangs, timber brackets, and exposed structural detailing that provides weather protection and reinforces that mountain aesthetic. I'm just going to go to the last one here on the apartments. And this is a shot looking all the way down the street. So you really get a sense of how the building kind of nestles into the hill and then kind of opens up as it goes down, but the great opportunities for the pedestrian environment. Again, we used varied gables and shed forms to divide the apartment building into smaller sections to really break the mass up as we go down. So again, following the guidelines with mass and scale. We have deep overhangs, exposed brackets, and expressed structural elements, again, that provide weather protection and mountain architectural detailing per the guidelines. Vertical window proportions and repeated balcony openings create this nice consistent rhythm as you're moving down the street. And the stone base with the wood tone siding above provides a visual weight, durability, and a clear base, middle, and top articulation to the building. And then kind of finally, I think, is just really the great landscape opportunities that we've gotten into a little bit. The landscaping really helps reinforce an active sidewalk, ground level residential features create a more human scale, pedestrian oriented streetscape, and the building steps down the hill and transitions towards the shopping center. So it creates a much nicer environment to walk along and really helps create a nice connection down to the retail shopping that's down the hill.
So. Yes. Yeah, on the right.
Yep. So I think turn it back over to you, Elena. All right. Thank you.
Good luck. No problem. Yeah, thank you for that large stick. That's much better than jumping. From an amenities perspective, creating places for people to enjoy indoors and outdoors is important. To that end, we have an indoor-outdoor resident amenity on the main level of Building 2. It'll have a fitness center and a lounge. A lot of times when people are in apartment living and they want to gather with larger groups, we want to create spaces where people could go play a game watch a movie, cook together, things of that nature to create that camaraderie between residents. And then that space will be connected to an outdoor deck that's south and west facing to capture all the views for that happen on this property. That parking lot's really nice. We also will have a dog run. It's similar in scale. That one up on the right is from Vista Verde and Brack. So we've done some really small dog parks in multifamily communities around the county. They're very successful and people tend to enjoy them quite a bit. We have outdoor balconies for every resident, which is a pretty unique amenity for the new community. And as I mentioned before, there are direct connections down from buildings 1 and 2 to Dillon Ridge Road. So because of our way we are handling the grade and doing it a little differently with a different unit type, we're able to create that direct connection. A couple more utilitarian things that are also very important. But we did have our civil engineer on board working with all of our utilities for water, sewer, and drainage. There's a great element in the staff report from Ned on that, Ned and Dan on that. Our parking is at 260 spaces, which is over 1 space per bedroom, which is a really good metric that we use in a lot of communities and meeting code.
I did want to point out the math in this is not correct. You have 36 junior, 39 1 bedroom, and 17 1 bedroom with a den. That actually equals 92, not 91, which would mean you need 138 parking, which still puts you at 260. But
Right.
the math is off a little bit.
There's 150 units, not 151. That was one edit. So there's one less 1 bedroom. It's correct on the parking chart. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for bringing that up. I did receive that notice, but I had already published the packet, so
Yep.
can correct it in the future as needed, but just wanted to leave it as was for tonight. 150.
50. We have coordinated with the fire department and the adjacent owners on making sure that loading still works with the change of street width and things like that. And we are in contact also with waste management on managing the site and operations for trash and recycling. We also have our traffic engineer online if there are any questions about that. When you look at this use replacing the other use, what's most important is when the theater was designed and built and at its busiest capacity, the intersections were all designed for that capacity. And this apartment project has less trips per day than the theater and what it was designed for originally. Through this effort, we've also worked with CDOT to ensure that the access permit, the existing access permit is up to code with this process.
Is there a slope to your parking lot at all?
There's slope in the parking lot, yes.
Does it go?
It goes to the center, yep, in there. And then because there's a regional detention facility, yep, there's a regional detention facility that this project connects to. It's in the staff report, really clearly indicated. I can tell you what page it is in a minute, but the drainage goes into that location and then snow storage is pushed to the north below.
To which location?
It goes, pull up what? Yeah, exactly. There's a storm drain through there. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
no problem. From a design guideline perspective, and Brad touched on a lot of these with the renderings, but simple and pragmatic building forms with durable materials. I do want to point out that Crane has built many homes in the Summit County environment and really thinks a lot about snow falling off of roofs, shedding, what makes most sense for design. And so we really appreciate that. There's extensive ground floor transparency by making that mezzanine unit that touches down to the ground. We have glazing and stone along the entire frontage of Dillon Ridge Road, creating a more pedestrian friendly environment. The building massing, roof forms, and materials have a nice rhythm to them in compliance with the guidelines. And, you know, we really wanted this to look like a new mountain housing community. And that really came through clear in the open houses that we had with you. So thanks to everyone who came. And the design is incorporating, like I already said, but we're designing for an alpine climate and our team is used to designing in those types of environments. I'm almost done. From the comprehensive plan, a few important conformance goals. We want to see infill and redevelopment to increase the full-time residential population. That is one that is very high on the list for this project and helps to encourage visitation to the commercial properties. You're going to be walkable both to Dillon Ridge and to the town core. From a land use pattern perspective, this is mixed use. And so we are working towards having a mix of uses within Dillon Ridge to provide additional housing. It's been very successful in this location and next door. And we want to encourage more of that in this same place. And then lastly, we want to create additional walkways and pathway connections so that people can get around safely. I'm not going to read all of this. This is in the packet. But it's important for us to look at compliance for the Planning Commission and eventually for council. But what makes a project approvable by the board? And so we've gone through each of those elements. A few that I'd want to point out. The density isn't a part of the community that can handle it and has a lot of amenities and elements nearby that are great and attractive for future residents. We have the appropriate utilities available and infrastructure for the site. That's hard to come by when you're doing housing in our community, as many of you have seen over time with some of the projects that the county has looked at countywide that haven't worked out because of a lack of infrastructure. And also that there's that affordability component that we are including. Lastly, we are just really grateful for all of your time. I'll leave these up on the screen as we move into questions. We're sure you'll have many, and we're happy to answer all of those and give you the details that you need. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Did you have anything else? Staff report?
I'm happy to begin my staff report. If you have any specific questions while they're fresh for the applicant, I welcome you to go ahead and entertain those now since they have their slides up.
Want to start, Diane?
I had a couple questions. Do you have room for bicycles, parking and like RV, boat, that kind of parking?
I can answer that question on behalf of the team, but if I'm incorrect, I'll be corrected.
So that's
There are
parking.
two bike racks shown on the site plan that I noticed. Maybe there's three. And it's actually a violation of the code to have parking for boats and campers and things like that. So those would have to be at an off-site storage facility. And that'll be written into the PUD documents.
Okay. Lighting, would it be cohesive with dark sky that we're going into?
That is a requirement of the approval documents. It's written as a condition of approval in the resolution.
Okay, and then my last one is water-wise planting. I can't figure out every single plant.
So yeah, that's okay. Yes, we've had an office up here for 18 years. So we have water-wise planting and we're also following standards for the new Wildland Urban Interface Code, which is a challenging thing for us to all navigate. But we've had multiple meetings with the fire department on that to make sure that we can plant the things we want to plant and make the project beautiful while protecting ourselves for wildfire preparedness. Same with the building exterior materials, non-combustible, meeting CRWC. It is non-combustible wood.
Yeah.
Non-combustible?
It has to be non-combustible by the new code requirements.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
So setbacks on the west or left side, you're only at 7.5 versus code at 10. Any comment? You're just trying to maximize? I just think I'd feel better if that particular, like I understand the setback non-conformance in the front because you are opening units to the street, you're trying to make it inviting. I can see a variance there making sense. think the only comment I saw in the paperwork was, hey, it faces REI, no big deal. But if I'm a resident up above, I'd be saying, hey, that's another 3 feet of a potential view line that you may have compromised by doing that. So just wanted your comment.
So I think from to the road, there's a fair amount of space too from that street edge to the property line and to the setback. But the other issue we're dealing with is getting fire in and around through that space. So some of the clearances required to get a fire truck in and around kind of help set up that need for pushing that as far as we can to try to get and keep as much parking as possible.
Fire access,
Into the parking,
Inside.
yeah, into the parking, yeah.
okay. And yet that seems to me to be on the far side of the property.
Right.
Okay,
I want to chime in because I think I know where this comment's coming from. It's we have a half inset, half protruding balcony. And so our building face is 10 feet from the property line, but we have a 2-foot overhang or 2.5 foot, which is how we're getting to that 7.5 feet. So we're happy to look at that, either
okay.
cut that balcony short.
But your
pull it
point would
fully aboard.
be, hey, the actual building
Yeah, the actual,
structure itself
exactly right.
meets
The
the
building
setback.
face is at 10 feet from the
The
property line.
patio or deck in this case on that west side may not, or,
Correct,
okay.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think if that's accurate, that makes it.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, okay, and then the other question I had was just related to the snow removal. Again, you're supposed to have 25% surface area, you're accommodating 14 to the rear of the property. Is the thought process that the management of the apartment is simply gonna bulldoze, put on trucks and take it down to the cemetery? Is that? And I guess I'm just,
Yes, that is the intention.
is that even a practical solution? Is that?
It happens in a lot of different of our
I know
mountain
last year, not
environments.
an issue, but.
Yeah.
This year, come on.
Because of the depth and distance to the wall, there's plenty of room for stacking of the snow as well. In that area higher than we stack in certain areas of town.
Okay,
But it's really more if it gets to a surplus amount where it needs to get pulled out, that we would have that agreement with the town to go towards the cemetery. And that would be on building management.
okay, so it's not the town's accountability, it is the property's
Correct.
accountability to.
Absolutely.
Okay, yep. And then my other question was just about this assertion of the PUD, but having read it, thank you, Ned. I think I agree with, to me, it only explicitly says can't be a supermarket or a pharmacy. But it's fair enough for you to include the language which suggests non-competing interests. So yeah, a restaurant or a barber shop or, the other various things there would arguably could be contested by others within that district. So I get it. That's it.
Okay. I had a question about the 20% deed restricted. Is that going to be a mixture of different size units as far as studios to the townhomes?
Yes, it'll be consistent with the unit mix across the entire property applied pro rata.
Perfect. And then I just wanted clarification. So you did do a traffic impact study about the changes in the amount of people inhabiting this space versus what it currently is? Okay. And you found that it's not going to be a significant impact?
I know Greg's online, but yes, no, it will not be a significant impact. The number of trips for the theater when this project was designed is 1,760 trips a day. And the apartments are about 933, or roughly half. And also the timing differential of when people are coming in and out of residential versus theaters is different. So when the original intersections were all designed, it was designed to accommodate a very full theater, unlike what we have right now. But we are going to have less trips with this type of use.
Okay, so theoretically, I mean, it will go up because right now there's not a lot of traffic, so it'll feel busier, but it's within the study.
And hopefully it feels busier on the pedestrian front as well.
Right. But was the 1760 a measured baseline amount? Or is it what the original design
I can
theoretically
probably pull up Greg
says exists?
Schroeder. He raised his hand. He's our traffic engineer.
I know you said he's online.
Yeah, he just raised his hand. If it's okay if Greg can speak to that question.
Yeah, it'd be great,
Thank you, Greg.
because it seems a little.
Better to have the traffic engineer answer this question from the planner.
Just seems a little surprising that it would be so significantly less. It's good news. Just,
Okay, hello, can you hear me here?
Yes.
thanks, Greg.
Okay, yes, Greg Schrader, Traffic and Transportation Engineer with McDowell Engineering. And so, yes, we did the traffic and transportation study. And so what Elena was quoting there was the 1,760 vehicle trips per day. So that is a value that is comes from basically what's called a trip generation manual, which is it's based upon many studies that have been done across the United States for many years. And it was sized per the number of movie theaters that a facility has. And so that's how we size that. And that's kind of very, very much in standard procedure with how traffic impact studies are done. You had some other specific questions, and if you wouldn't mind, would you mind repeating those? I can help with those.
Okay. Just kind of, so that's a theoretical number. No disrespect, right? And you're saying it's consistent with how it's more broadly done across the US. Great. Was there a baseline measure taken? And what does that number look like as compared to the 933? Yes, that's.
Yes. So what we did do as a part of this study, we did do existing condition traffic counts. And we did that, as the movie theater was in session. And I don't have the exact numbers in here. They are in the report, but I can tell you that percentage wise, it was substantially less than that 1,760 vehicle trips per day.
Absolutely believable. But could you comment offhand? And again, there were 40 pages of hash mark statistics in the package. Thank you, Ned. Is it higher or lower in your judgment than the 933 that we're forecasting?
Oh, as far as you mean the proposed?
Current baseline.
Hold on one second. Let me see here.
Yes, sir.
So, I believe that the 933, proposed vehicle trips per day, that represents, I think a fairly accurate value. And the reason that I say that is this type of multifamily development, I think, there's the traffic and trip generation manuals that we use as guidances. This is probably the second or third highest studied metric, and it's based upon, I want to say off the top of my head, there's probably at least 40 or 50 similar studies that were done kind of nationally that looks like this. And so again, these values are very, very well represented. And so, we feel very confident that that this is a good representation. We also did take a reduction for some of the pedestrian and multimodal uses. For instance, there's the bus stop, which is not too far away. And knowing that, this community has, fairly high bus ridership, especially, during resort time and seasonal times and stuff like that. We took that into consideration too. And so that actually slightly lowered that number to accommodate, those usages.
Yeah, I would just state I'd love to understand what the baseline is. I think he's measured it, and maybe as a follow-up that could be provided to us. You know, my guess is it's less than the 933. So, and again, just gut, I guess, you know, or having been to the theater many times and seeing the degree of traffic in there.
Yeah, if you want to hold on, you know, maybe we could continue on and let me just kind of look through the
Sure.
report real fast. I can
That'd
find
be
out
wonderful. It's
what
late in
that
the
would be.
discussion here. Let's
Yeah.
move on and,
Yeah,
thank
you
you very
bet.
much.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I'll just
It'd be
go
good
ahead and
to later on talk about what the goal is of the discussion too. Because the intersections were designed to accommodate the larger amount of traffic based on the engineering manuals. And while the traffic now may be less than what it is going to be with housing on it, it's still designed to accommodate that amount of traffic flow and circulation.
Fair.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? That was my last week.
Okay. Is there any sort of phasing plan? So there's 3 different buildings. Will they be built at the same time or separately? I know things can change, and that kind of leads me into at what point will the 20% workforce housing be implemented? So if you build one building, how will 20% of that building be workforce housing? Yeah.
It'll be delivered all in one phase or constructed as one phase. And the workforce housing will be implemented kind of consistent with our lease up.
And then I noticed in the conditions listed in the resolution, it mentions, pull it up. The condition number H, it just says the applicant shall enter into a restrictive covenant for the workforce housing component of the project. I would like to see that, you know, prior to issuance of the building permit or somehow tied at the building permit. So that way, we know that that covenant will actually be in place, you know, there's a trigger for it.
So I can tell you with a PUD and with the public improvements associated with this project, there will also be a development agreement that the town will enter into.
Okay.
And it will specifically reference the need for that workforce housing covenant.
Perfect.
And so those documents are actually, they proceed directly to the town council.
Okay.
And not come back through the planning commission.
Got it. Okay. The sidewalk frontage, the staff reports, and this might be maybe more you, Ned, but maybe you guys as well. The frontage mentions that it'll be, you know, 10 feet in width. But Kroger doesn't like the reduction of the road size or the road width. So if Kroger does not permit that, or if the agreement with all the different, whoever manages it, how will you address that sort of sidewalk frontage?
It'll be a combination through reduction in sidewalk width and planting area.
Okay, so it may not necessarily be 10 feet.
Correct. We get the 10 feet through reducing the road width. And this is all through the right of way. This isn't us expanding our property line.
Right.
and doing
No,
that.
it's, okay. So I do like that. I do like having that wider road with, you know, the amount of pedestrians that come through.
And the trucks.
And the trucks and everything, just having that additional buffer for those folks. And I know that's not always underneath everyone's control, but if there is a design mechanism to continue to allow that frontage to be a little bit wider, that would be great. And then lastly is for the snow storage. I understand that a lot of it will be, snow storage will be trucked off. Is there any sort of plan? So the way I'm seeing the snow storage is that a lot of it, most of it is going to be pushed behind parking spots. And just from experience, that's with cars parked there, you've got to have some sort of plan of like, hey, you've got to move your cars at this point. Do you have and some of the snow storage as well is over the landscaping, some of the trees. So looks great on paper, doesn't really work in per plan. So just wanted to see some comments on that.
Yeah. First off, I mean, we'll have full-time property management to kind of manage our parking. We also have leave out space in the middle of that snow storage area to provide access for a plow to get through there and push snow through that area. So instead of picking up a parking spot, we just kind of left it, it'll be a mountable curb that we'll put in there that allow us to push snow up and through.
It's like blocking an area off when you need to.
Exactly.
access parking areas.
Well, it's already blocked off. Yeah, there's no parking space allowed in it.
Based on the snow storage plan, it shows that there's parking spaces. That is on page 25 at 37. of
It's
the-
this, we basically just left out a parking space here. And then
That.
as needed, we can cone off, for on a day where we're moving snow, certain spaces around that to help make that area larger.
There's also a plan that shows that has landscaping. So it's just, there's some conflicting information and I just want to make sure.
It'll be landscaped just like our snow storage area will be landscaped. So it's not just dirt in the summer, but,
Right.
it'll be there won't be any programming in there to create obstruction.
So how are you going to push snow over trees?
There won't be trees. It'll be grass.
Not landscaped.
There are trees pushed to the back against the wall.
Yep.
And we try to use trees such as like bristlecone pines, which handle snow really well. We have to create that balance of having this really efficient snow storage area while we want to also create a nice landscape buffer against the wall.
Yeah.
And so that was our goal with that. So we tried to specify the plants that we know are going to be most tolerant of snow.
Okay. So I see some of them are outside of it, so that looks good. But yeah, it was more of on the plan I'm looking at, and this is part of the staff report on Exhibit A. It just shows a small little island that's kind of called out their little divot sort of thing that has or little island that has some trees and landscaping on it. I think this is actually the snow storage plan. And then the landscape plan next to it also has landscaping there. So it just doesn't seem practical to be able to just push snow through that, to be able to get it to that whole strip.
We can relocate those trees.
So it's more of just the practicality of if you do need snow storage on this, having some sort of mechanism that can either move those parking spaces, which, if you're underneath a management company, that makes it a lot easier than, say, a regular HOA. So something to think about. I've definitely seen that before in my complex where the snow storage was behind parking spots. In Copper Mountain, I know that there was a few that was changed a little bit just to make it practical. We get a lot of snow, and since that's on a large slope, I don't know how snow shedding will work. I'm not an expert in that, but something to think about.
I'm also going to let you know that my feeling is that if you have drainage going down toward that area that you said it was going to go, and you're not going to really have sun there, and you have your handicap spots there, and they're going to be parking in ice. It's going to freeze up. It's going to drain there, freeze up, and your ADA spots are going to be in ice because there's no sun. So you might want to consider that for your ADA people.
I think
Because,
that's,
this whole side of that building is going to be, especially with the slope over there, you're not going to have a lot of sun there to melt any.
I think that's absolutely a fair concern. We've been in early discussions with professional property management firms such as Quorum, who's done an excellent job across Vail Valley, Summit County. They handle this in spades across both mountain areas, and they'd be proactive about it, whether that's throwing salt, hammering it.
Okay,
So-
well, they're one short, and I think you should take a look at this. For
Absolutely.
the people that definitely don't need ice, the ADA people are them.
I will point out that there is a drainage collection system in that southern row of parking. You'll see these black rectangles. Those are storm drain inlets. and I believe there's a valley pan to intercept very much of the cross sheet flow that you're talking about from the snow storage area.
Middle, right.
Yes.
So that's the low spot.
It'll drain before it reaches theoretically those parking spots.
It will, okay.
Right.
That's not what I understood when I asked before, so I apologize then.
Think of it.
I'm just very aware of ADA is all in it. I really, I just want to make sure they're okay.
Totally understood.
But basically, the height of the ground at the building marginally higher than when you get to that line. And then similarly, from the back of the property, that is significantly higher than the belly pan or whatever you want to call it, Ned, right? That, yeah, water collection would logically happen there. And
Okay,
Ned shared with us how it exits the property.
all right. Thanks for indulging me. I appreciate.
Suzanne, do you have any more questions?
I do not.
Michael?
So all the units are rentals right now? Is that right?
That's correct.
Is there any way for that to change in the future?
There's no condo restriction on the, on the deed, on the title. So, that ability always exists. Our intent as a long-term owner is to maintain a fully rental community.
I actually thought of one other question. Is there any sort of AMI on the workforce housing units? Or is that, when is
That has not been proposed in the draft workforce housing covenant agreement we're working on with the town attorney and working with this team. The answer is no. There is a high demand for that missing middle housing, correct? So this, at market rate, it's still a highly viable solution to support workforce housing.
Is that something that they'll work out with the housing authority throughout the process?
They have no intent to do an AMI restriction.
Okay.
The deed
To follow that up, there are no public subsidies on offer for a project. It's 100% private capital.
All right, we will turn it over to Ned for the staff summary. Oh, 1 second. You have one? Nope.
Our traffic engineer has his hand up. If we could allow him to speak, I think he has an answer to your question.
Yes, thank you. If it's okay, I'm going to share the screen here because I would like to you can see the screen. Let me know if you can see the screen okay here.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to zoom in real faster. So this is a part of the study. I think it's looks like page 95 of your packet. And this basically represents the traffic counts that we conducted here. We're going to look at this intersection number 4 right here. And what we're going to see here is these are the counts. Each of these numbers here, there's 3 numbers, and what they represent is 3 different times that counts were taken. AM represents weekday morning peak, PM represents weekday afternoon peak, and Saturday represents a Saturday count. So we did the morning peak count we determined was between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And if you look at all the volume that kind of goes in and out, so basically everything that's going along this driveway here, that comes out to be 16 vehicle trips per hour. And to give you an example, 16 vehicle trips is roughly 1 vehicle trip every 4 minutes on average, okay? During the PM peak hour, which happened between 4:30 and 5:30 PM, per our traffic counts, that volume right there is about 20 vehicle trips per hour. That's roughly 1 vehicle every 3 minutes. And on our Saturday peak operation, which happened basically at about between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock PM is when the peak traffic was observed on Saturday. This volume right here is about 26 vehicle trips per minute, which is just a little more than one vehicle every 2 minutes. So that kind of gives you an idea of order of magnitude about how much traffic is kind of going in and out. Now, I was speaking in terms of traffic on the order of hourly volumes, and previously we were talking on daily volumes. There's kind of a way to convert those two between there, and that is you take that PM value roughly times 10, and that kind of gives you order of magnitude. So for instance, we saw about 20 vehicles per hour, for the Friday, or excuse me, for the afternoon peak. If we take that times 10, that more or less equates to what you would anticipate to see during a peak, or excuse me, a daily traffic, which would be roughly about 200 vehicle trips per day. So if we want to kind of, compare and contrast that to what we were talking about earlier, where we had, I believe it was 1,700 vehicle trips was the, original estimate for a movie theater. And then our development is going to produce, I think it was roughly about 900, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look at that number. You can kind of see that the existing traffic volume there, which is a result of two things. It's the movie theater, but it's also, I think there's some spillover parking that's probably happening from the residential development to the east. And I think that's a combination of what we're seeing there. So I hope that kind of answers your questions on the order of magnitude.
So I think what I heard, 30 at a peak, 10 hours, 300 a day versus 900 day forecast.
Yes.
And that resonates better with what I think reality would be. So it's
Absolutely.
triple what it is today, but it's still well within what the roads were designed for. So yeah, shouldn't. Anyway, I was struggling with suggesting that this was going to be a decrease. I think the reality is it's going to double or triple what's happening today, given where the theater is at today and attendance and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yes, your assertion is correct.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
Ned, before you start your presentation, I think we'd like to have Brian Mitchell come and speak as kind of part of the applicant team. If
We
there's
welcome
time for
that.
that. Brian, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Brian Mitchell. I'm from Elkhart, Kansas. And I just appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm a third generation dirt farmer. That's what we do. Dirt farmers, most farmers expand into cattle and hogs. We expanded into real estate and movie theaters. We love the movie theater business. We love the magic of movies. And so when we got into the movie theater business, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then COVID hit. And to say COVID hit when you're not in the movie business, okay, yeah, it went over, but that was so tough. We have 15 locations in 7 states, and Colorado's right in the middle. Sometimes you were a little strict on some things, sometimes you weren't. New Mexico, we had 3 properties shut down for over a year. But the taxes were due, the insurance was due. It was tough. So then combine that with the technology of streaming all at the same time. When things were shut down, obviously people started getting the habit of watching on phones, and then of course one of the trends the film companies went through was putting the movies online immediately, same time, day and date's what it's called. So basically those two things changed the movie habits forever. There was just no question. Well, then in the summer of 23, we thought we were over the hump. If you guys can remember when Barbie and Oppenheimer came out, Barbenheimer is what they called it. And I think you probably saw me quoted in the Summit Daily News that we had in the Port Company and also several other offers coming in. And we said, no, the movie theaters are going to get better. We're going to do it. We're going to hang with this. And yeah, we've lost a lot of money, but we're going to hang with it. And we did. And so as we went, then about that same time was the writers and actors strike. And that was almost as devastating to the theater industry as COVID, because what that did was completely disrupt all the movie production. And so by just getting through COVID and starting to get going again, and then it just threw it all in the same boat again. My son lives in LA, and I was out there not too long ago, and you probably read where, I mean, the Hollywood production, the jobs lost is still, they're not going to recover from that. So anyway, but through this, the movie mantra, everybody was still trying to be positive. That's what, because we love movies. We're going to hang in there. And the mantra was survive to 25. And that was in all of our meetings with all the theater chains and everything. That's what we were going to do. Well, 2025 box office fell short. And so it was, and most of the time it was 25. The numbers came out, it was 25 to 35% less than 2019, which is the pre-COVID year they compare it with. So I'm a former CPA. My brother's a tax attorney. Don't hold that against me. But anyway, we started looking at the numbers, and Skyline was down 49%. So when you look at that, if you're in a business that's dropped 49%, if your wages are cut 49%, you got to look at something. You got to figure out what's going on. So basically I'm subscribed, read the Summit Daily News online nearly every day. And they talked about it. It's actually started back in about summer of 24. The tourism started dropping. You know, it jumped after COVID and it came in, but the tourism started dropping. And actually, there's an article last week. It was Everything Colorado, an article there, that same deal. It just keeps, and you start looking at that. And so anyway, when we got to that in the fall of 2025, when those numbers were that, we made the difficult decision to repurpose the property, take a look at our options. It was awful. It's still, I hate it because we're letting our movie theater customers down, because the movies are great. I mean, you need to have access to it. I grew up in a town that didn't have a movie theater. My kids grew up in a town that didn't have a movie theater. It sucks when you don't have a theater. It's terrible, but we kept thinking, well, let's see what we got. And that's when, and at that time we had, I think it was 3 different developers. We have people call us all the time about wanting to purchase the property. It's like, no, we're a movie theater. That's what we're going to do. And at that time we had 3 different developers, 2 Denver and 1 from Dallas. And so, you know, so we started thinking about talking about it and stuff. Well, in January of this year, we knew our declining tourism numbers were correct, because the only other privately owned multiplex in the whole ski area was Movieland 7 in between Aspen and Snowmass. Carbondale or Basalt. Okay. And that's the only other real privately owned movieplex. I mean, there's some obviously community owned or 401c3, but they closed. They closed even before we knew the winter was going to be bad because of no snow. They just closed right then. And they're a family like us. They're from Connecticut, and but they just decided to close it right then. Actually, they're trying to work on building a motel there. But and then in February this year, AMC, you might have heard, they announced that they're going to close more theaters this year than they're going to open. So the movie business is tough. It's not just us. It's just things have changed. There's no doubt about it. So, you know, when we purchased the Skyline Cinema in 2012, one thing we did was if you're a loyal customer of ours, your ticket price has never gone up. It's the same as it was in 2012 because we tried to keep it affordable for local people. And of course, you guys know up here, the mud season and the shoulder season, if you're in a business, you struggle through that, just hoping you make the money when the tourists come in. And because you're going to, most likely you're going to lose money during those two times. And so we always kept it the prices, so people tried to keep it affordable for people, and we're still that way, and we still believe in that. Now, we had to tweak concession prices, but ticket prices have never changed in 12 years. I don't know if there's any other thing that you can purchase, you can say that hasn't changed, but that's what we tried to do because, again, for the love of movies, for our movie theater family, for our customers. So basically, whenever those numbers, again, came in, and we looked at different developers, we looked at different options, and we selected Page West. And basically, the reason we selected to be partnered up with them was they're obviously proposed building housing, which Summit County needs. Again, they voluntarily proposed 20% of the deeds restricted for workforce housing. Unlike other development proposals you guys have been involved with, contentious at times too, but this proposal is up on a hill. The building is not going to block anybody's view behind them. I know you've got issues down at other places that there's a view being blocked, and so that can be an issue. Page West wanted to be upfront, truthful, and transparent about this project and seek out public input, which they have. And their partners are Colorado people with Colorado values. And so as a small town person, we're in a small farming community, 1,700 people. We lost our John Deere dealer over this last year, 60 years. It's been there. And there's nothing worse than having a big empty building in a small town. And we luckily were able to work a deal with the company going out to get a new company in. So using that same philosophy, that was what's great about Page West. It was like, hey, we'll stand whatever we need to do. If we can get this to work out, let's serve the community as long as we possibly can. And hopefully you guys have a project that you need. And so basically we just tried to, it's a bad thing and it sucks. And I'm sorry to our movie customers for not being able to get through it, but we just want to do the best we can for as long as we can. So I don't know when the question is. I'm sorry it took so much time, but I thank you for your time and I'll answer any questions you have later. Thank you.
Not right now.
Okay.
But later.
Later. We'll get you later.
No. Ned, do you have any? Ned, do you have any more that you'd like to talk about?
I do have a presentation. I will try to get that going. I think the applicant has covered it quite extensively. Okay. Looks like that's working. So I believe that the folks online can see this as well. So tonight we're discussing Resolution PZ 04-26, Series of 26, and it relates to this PUD application for the Skyline Apartments. What I'm going to touch on here quickly tonight is just kind of summarizing the location and the project, dive into the public process and zoning a little bit. We'll discuss the site, height, and parking. I think the applicant has already done a pretty thorough job with that, but I'm happy to chime in when I can and answer questions. Architecture and materials, utilities, drainage and traffic, setbacks, site coverage, and the private open space and communal open space provided to the residents, PUD standards and relation to reviewing the comp plan against this application. Finally, a staff recommendation. do it this way. Okay, they've already covered this, but let me read the title of the resolution, just so you have it. Resolution PZ 04-26, series of 2026. A resolution recommending approval of a level 4 development application for a plan unit development for a new multifamily residential apartment complex at 312 Dillon Ridge Road, Dillon, Colorado. The site is 4.1 acres. That's approximately 180,000 square feet. There are 3 buildings proposed. A correction to this slide, 150 apartment units and a total of 260 parking spaces proposed. The 3 buildings are comprised of 1 and 2 bedroom units in buildings 1 and 2, and then building 3 is a townhome style apartment building with 3 bedroom units. I believe we've touched on the site, but it is Block 5 of the Dillon Ridge Marketplace PUD. It's west of the Lookout Ridge Apartments and east of City Market and REI. It's also north of the Vale Health development, the Dillon Medical Office Building, and what is to very soon be opening the Nordstrom Rack. To the north is the Piney Acres residential development, single-family residential in unincorporated Summit County. As Brian was kind enough to speak to tonight, this does redevelop his unfortunately failing movie theater, Mitchell Theater Skyline Cinema 8. There are some covenants that I think that were touched on. I can have the applicant dive into those deeper if there are questions about them. But essentially, Kroger and the management company, Miller United of the Dillon Ridge Marketplace, are stringently enforcing those covenants and have essentially told the applicants that there is no real commercial opportunity, especially anything that would compete with anything in the marketplace entirely. As to the hearing notice and public engagement, there will be 2 public hearings related to this application. One before the Planning Commission, that's this meeting tonight, and a second one before the Town Council. Due to notification requirements, that will probably be at least a month from now. Ordinances before the Town Council actually have 2 readings. We will have the first reading where we will set the meeting date. And there's no public comment during that time, but it sets the meeting date for the public hearing. And that gives us opportunity to start getting the notice out to the public. The applicant did touch on their community engagement. They held at least 2 public events and did work on direct contact with neighboring property owners. So this is the way PUDs work in the town of Dillon is that they are an overlay over the underlying zone district. So currently, this property is within the Dillon Ridge Marketplace PUD, which overlays the mixed-use zone district. The way we've looked at this, because of the complexities of the Dillon Ridge Marketplace, the way we're structuring this is to separate from the Dillon Ridge Marketplace and create a new separate PUD for this site. That is the cleanest way to cover all of the elements specific to this site and remove the other elements from the PUD marketplace, which mostly are tied to commercial signage. And that's specifically why we feel that's a more appropriate measure. This proposal does have 100% residential. There is a pathway in the mixed use zone district for 100% residential, and that is through the PUD process. In the mixed use zone, the typical desire for multifamily housing would be 80% housing and then 20% commercial. Again, that does not appear to be available to the applicant given the covenant restrictions on the property. Therefore, they are pursuing this 100% residential route, and that's why we are here tonight reviewing a PUD application. We do find that this application does meet the standards set forth in the mixed-use zone for the multifamily 100% application process. We've already touched on the developer is voluntarily proposing 20% of the units to be deed restricted for local workforce housing. Typically, the way that deed restriction looks, that's people that work, it's qualified persons who work a minimum of 30 hours per week for a business operating in Summit County. The applicant has further offered to prioritize Dillon workers and Keystone workers as a priority to their leases. We are currently working on a workforce housing covenant agreement with the applicant. We have a draft put together. The applicant is currently reviewing that, and we will be having that finalized as we move forward with the development agreement, should this application be approved by the town council. There was a reference to the 2023 housing needs assessment. There is actually truly desperate need for housing, especially for rent housing. For many years, the type of workforce housing that was being developed in Summit County was for purchase property, heavily deed restricted. This has an opportunity for those people that just need to get into housing. And even at market rate, it still is a huge benefit, especially given the limitations for the missing middle housing, if you will. So a correction on this slide again, 150 units total. And there's some square footages of the buildings. So as was really well described by the applicant's architect, what they've decided to do, as opposed to having a 18 or 20-foot wall along Lake Dillon Drive, kind of walling off this development to catch up to the terraced site above, what they have decided to do is step the building down to meet the street. Building 1 has mezzanine units, so there's like a loft within those units. And building 2 has direct street access with balconies. It's not quite as tall along the street as this, given the grade of like Dillon Ridge Road. And again, this integrated approach avoids that large retaining wall that would otherwise be likely part of this development. Okay. Not sure what I've done here. It looks fine on your screen, but my screen just got wonky. So bear with me 1 minute. Okay. I can still read it. Again, a correction on this slide, 150 units, all for rent apartments. They range from junior 1-bedrooms to 3-bedroom townhome apartments. The 3 apartments engage, the 3 buildings engage the street, even the townhomes as shown here in this figure. They don't have a parking garage on the front. They were able to arrange that around the back. And so the front entrance is right off the grade. And it has a much more appealing look to it. My arrows aren't. Okay, 260 parking spaces are provided. 258 are required. That may require an update, but I think we have a surplus now because we're going from 151 to 150. But we have enough parking. Some parking is within garages, and some parking is provided in the surface lot. Some of the garage spaces, not all of them, are tandem, so end-to-end parking. So that's for those, perhaps those 2-bedroom units where they can coordinate roommates or couples, their parking needs. So a little bit about how we measure height in town. And as they discussed, kind of an expression of the relative height off of the terrace. So I'll speak to that a little bit. So the way we determine building height is by looking at the contact elevation at the highest point on a foundation and then at the lowest point. Now, since they've stepped down the hill and created that street frontage and that pedestrian experience, that made a much taller building height than were we to consider it just relative to the terraced site and that parking area elevation. Through the PUD, there is an opportunity to request an exception to the underlying zoning of the mixed use, and that would be a 35 feet mixed use. So again, through this step-down structure, they're retaining the site with their building as opposed to a retaining wall. Again, that 35 base elevation is the building height, but then there's an allowance for an additional 8 feet of mechanical unit space, elevator penthouses, and other architectural features that are non-inhabitable. So that gets you to a total of 43 feet. So based on the calculations required by the code, we do end up with building 1 being at 53.7 feet, building 2, 47.4, and 35.4 for the townhomes. Again, were you to consider the terrace, I think they presented their argument there. They are still a little bit over that building height, but what they are doing is accomplishing screening the units, the rooftop mechanical units, with the architectural features of the roof elements, and therefore we aren't having a flat roof with a boxy square mechanical screening on the roof. The materials they have proposed meet the mountain lake style guidelines set forth in the adopted design guidelines of the town. They have a heavy stone base, as Crane Architects described, and a well-defined base, middle, and top of the structure. It's well articulated. It has all kinds of release of timbers and things that really kind of reach out into the public realm a little bit to break up the building. And as described, that setback issue, part of that is actually those balconies provided for each private residence. They already reviewed their inspiration for this design. The town engineer did review water and sewer capacities and has found that existing water and sewer capacities are sufficient to serve this site. The applicant will rebuild the water main, which currently runs through the apartment complex, and bring that out into Dillon Ridge Road. And the site drainage, it is handled through, well, I'm jumping ahead. The sanitary sewer collection system will tie in also to the existing sanitary sewer in Dillon Ridge Road. Now, storm drainage will be collected on site and then tie into the existing storm drainage, which is in Dillon Ridge Road, and then ultimately feed down to the regional detention ponds, which are on the south side of Highway 6. That regional detention pond system serves the entire Dillon Ridge marketplace. What we have found is that some of the slopes in the parking lot and driveway reach up to 5.3%, whereas the town code is 4% generally as a parking lot maximum grade requirement, that this design standard can be modified through a PUD process. The imperviousness of the existing site is very similar to what we're going to end up with, so we are not anticipating any significant increase in stormwater runoff. We've touched on the traffic study. I think Greg did a good job of backing that up. I think the standard count of 1760 for a movie theater of this size with 8 theaters, it would be interesting to know what those numbers were in 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic. As we understand from Brian Mitchell, and thank you again for him being here tonight, they were much busier in the past. Okay, so this snow removal requirement isn't spelled out in the code in the parking lot standards. So again, this is something that can be modified through the PUD. What we found is that we're just looking at the parking lot area and the drive aisles and determining that required 25% per code. That is a general requirement that applies not to a unique site like this that has a very large snow storage area where the typical stacking of a pile of snow of maybe 5 feet in a regular parking lot could probably be tripled in this area. So there is an opportunity for additional snow storage in that 14% area. There are minor snow storage elements in some of the smaller islands and adjacent to some sidewalks. I anticipate that's very limited snow storage. And it's primarily along that north side of the lot. Now, given that it does fall below the 25% required in the code, even though that standard can be amended through the PUD, we will also require that the applicant enter into a snow removal agreement with the town. We've done that on a number of properties, Homewood Suites being one, where once they get full, if you will, and their snow storage can no longer accept anymore, they're required to haul off that snow so that they can maintain a receiving area on site. We have discussed this with the applicant and they are more than willing to enter into that agreement. So yes, the building setback was measured on building 1 on that west side to be 7.5 feet or 7 feet 5 inches. Again, that is to the edge of the balcony, which is part of the structure, which is why we measure to that. The building face does meet that 10-foot required setback in the zone. There is a reduced front yard in building 2. Again, that's part of the design to retain the site with the structure, but also it enables that building to really meet the street, which is a much more desirable design element than a large retaining wall. And building 3 meets all of the required setback or yard requirements in the code. So again, through the PUD process, the applicant can request a deviation from the standard provisions in the code for setbacks, so long as the Planning Commission feels that that is suitably acceptable. The mixed-use zone district has a maximum of 40% site coverage. We've calculated the site coverage for the 3 buildings, the waste enclosures, the deck, the common element deck to be total of 33.6% lot coverage. So that meets the underlying zoning provisions. There is provided 12,243 square feet of private and communal open space. The 1-bedroom units have 50 square foot balconies. That's meeting the mixed use criteria set forth in the code. And the 2- and 3-bedroom units have 100 square foot balconies or patios. There are also 2 locations of communal public open space, not public open space, private open space available to the residents. That being the dog run in the northwest corner of the site and the communal deck, which offers outdoor seating and it looks like a fire pit is perhaps rendered there. Elena did touch on the landscape design. It does conform with the recently adopted Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code, and there is a 5-foot non-combustible landscape buffer around the entire site's buildings. Typically, this is a rock mulch type feature. The building is also in compliance with that. There is an extensive landscape list of plantings, and as Elena referenced, they have 18 years of experience here in Summit County, making beautiful and living landscapes that survive the high mountain arid conditions that we often experience and the heavy snowfalls that we hope to continue to experience. So the site does have good circulation through the design of the parking lot. There aren't a bunch of dead ends to it. It has a nice looping pattern. Part of that is to comply with the needs and requirements of Summit Fire and EMS Fire District. And the district has already performed a preliminary review of the site plan, provided some comments, and those have been addressed. The applicant ultimately will have to, should this project move forward, apply with the Summit County Building Inspection Department and the Summit Fire and EMS Fire District. So to summarize the requested exceptions to the underlying zoning, it is again 100% multifamily residential. That requires the PUD. Snow storage is 14% versus the required 25%. Yard setback deviations for building 1 on the west side and building 2 on the south side only. Otherwise, they are compliant. The landscaping as presented, we just state that because quite often there are challenges with achieving the requirements for all of the landscaping within landscape islands within a parking lot. And because of the fire circulation, the drainage, there are limited islands in this parking lot. That said, the parking lot is well buffered from the street by the structures which meet the street, and surrounding those structures is the landscaping adjacent to the street. The building heights do exceed the 35-foot maximum set forth in the mixed-use zone district. Again, they may be deviated through the PUD process. And the parking lot, the PUD process. There are some tall site retaining walls along the north side of the site. Typically, what we're trying to see is not having massive retainage on sites, but to make this site work, that is what's been proposed. As you're probably very aware, all along the north side of Dillon Ridge Marketplace is a significant retaining wall system exceeding general and typically acceptable heights. We did review this application, as did the applicant, and they presented in their presentation against the comprehensive plan. There is attainable housing provided, and that includes 20% workforce housing, but just having 4 rent properties for a highly transient community is a huge asset for Summit County and the town of Dillon. The design does conform to the architectural guidelines that have been adopted, and those are clearly spelled out in the comprehensive plan as being the design that should be achieved for new development. The proposal is to have dark sky compliance. That meets the plan's goals. It's also a requirement in the resolution that they submit a lighting plan and that be proven to be dark sky compliant. And connectivity, a big element in the comprehensive plan. Not only does the site have good traffic connectivity, but the pedestrian movements greatly improve the building access and the improvements along Dillon Ridge Road support the desires of the Town of Dillon Trails Master Plan that was recently adopted a couple years ago to create a substantial, I'll say, pedestrian connection from the Dillon Medical Office Building, where we have the new connection up to Lake Dillon Drive, and through the marketplace, all the way down to Little Beaver Trail. So all of that is in process, and they do their part on this site. They did touch on the 3 letters of recommendation for approval. One from Arapahoe Basin, Tony Camarata. Did I just butcher that?
That's good.
Okay. My sincere apologies. Density at an existing commercial center integrated with transit and services puts housing where the infrastructure already exists. Steve Schoflick of Dillon Ridge Marketplace. Shopping centers thrive on consistent daily foot traffic. A residential community generates exactly that. And Craig Cohn with Vale Health, who helped develop the Dillon Medical Office Building, wrote, quality housing across the street from the health center gives us a realistic answer to where will I live for their perspective employees. So again, Planning Commission and Town Council, the Planning Commission here tonight will consider this application. If you approve the resolution, you are making a recommendation to the Town Council to approve this PUD development plan. You have other options. You may continue the hearing should you request additional information from either the applicant or staff, or you may deny. Upon denial, the applicant has the opportunity to directly appeal to the Town Council. The Town Council will then hold a public hearing and approve with conditions or deny, or continue and work through the process. So ultimately, if approved, this PUD development plan will be recorded with Summit County Clerk and Recorder. What we will add to the plans that you have seen in your packet is a cover sheet that will detail all of the permitted and special uses that apply specifically to this PUD development plan. It will also include signature blocks for the Planning Commission chairperson, the town engineer, and other pertinent signers, and the Town Council mayor. So upon that, staff does recommend approval of this application. We do recognize that this is a community decision. So our recommendation is just that, based on our review. We still encourage public input. We encourage thoughtful deliberation, and I will be happy to answer any questions you have. So given that, I thank you, and I am happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ned. Do we have any questions that popped up?
I do have a question. You said that it exceeded the 35-foot limit building height. By how much?
7 feet?
Like 10, if you count the 8-foot,
HVAC?
yeah, additional spot.
10, if you count the 8 feet?
Yeah,
Okay, so it's really
or 11.
3 feet higher than it, plus the 8 feet, right?
The building height in the mixed-use zone district allowed without a PUD exception is 35 feet plus 8, so that's 43.
So
When you have a site that slopes 60 feet across the site, and they have tried to manage that with their building, that's where we figure into a very tall building. But if you're looking at it relative to the terrace of the parking level and the views potentially impacted by the building height, it is much closer to that 43-foot elevation. Yes, Doug?
Good evening, Planning Commission. I've met some of you. I haven't been up here in a while. But might be helpful. My job here is to interpret code. According to 16-5-120F 1 through 6 of your code, to consider change, so it's not a variance, you're giving a site-specific building height restriction rather than going off the base zoning. The 6 factors you consider are its geographic location, visual effect on adjacent sites or other areas in the vicinity, potential problems for adjacent sites caused by shadows, loss of air circulation, or loss of view, influence on the general vicinity with regard to extreme contrast vistas and open space, uses within the proposed building, and fire protection capacities, which I think is how high a fire engine ladder can go. So there's a very specific criteria for you to consider. It's not a variance. You know, we're not taking the MU height and saying this is generally good for everything. We're looking at the one site for that height restriction. And those are the 6 factors that you would consider.
Did you say that that is, the height isn't like a blanket? It's not like a blanket, oh, you're gonna go up to 53 for the whole thing. It's very specific to the site that they're proposing.
Correct, just this one lot. The PD plan probably requires them to build these 3 buildings in this configuration. If someone wanted to build a different building, they would have to come back. And it is fairly common, which is one of the reasons that staff is recommending approval. In the mountains with these very large grade changes, design gets a difficult choice between a huge retaining wall and a small building on top, or doing something that is taller technically, but in context of the site, the height is actually much more human scale than you might imagine.
With the 53-foot height, that is more towards that lowest grade of the site.
Right.
And then the backside of that, was there an elevation? I think there was.
I think the,
I'll look at it.
the applicant did a good job of trying to describe that. And
Yeah.
I believe they were saying they were very close to that 43-foot.
The 43, okay.
Right, it looked to me like you were standing in the parking lot. The height of the building at its tallest is 42. So less than
Right, it was,
the 35 plus 8.
they had 1 foot plus, yeah,
Right.
below that.
Having said that, you measure from Dillon Ridge Road at the bottom to the base, you're at 53 and change. Yeah. But Doug, you're saying not a variance.
No. So the whole,
Instead, we must choose one of the 6 criteria. Or
no, those are the factors that you can consider. So you have your zoning setbacks and your zoning building heights to apply as a broad brush across large areas of town. The purpose of a PUD is to be more flexible with certain uses or site constraints. So your role in approving the PUD is to say, in the totality of the circumstances, this building height seems like it's caused by geography. It seems like it's still down the hill, so the visual effect isn't too bad. It's not going to cause shadows. And so in this particular location, this particular design, and much like the balconies coming off the front of the building, the setbacks would apply. You use them. You're saying we're going to change from the typical setbacks. We're going to change from the typical building height for this one site due to its unique constraints. We decide as a body, this makes sense or not.
you.
Anything else? Dan?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Great. Okay. We are getting to the fun part, which is the public comment section. We will start with anyone online who would like to make a comment. Please raise your hand using that feature. And during the public comment portion of the hearing, when the secretary announces your name, please unmute your individual line and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. I will hold time. Please direct all of your comments to the commission, us, not the applicant or the town staff. You will be asked to state your full name and address for the record, to swear to tell the truth. Oh, the applicant will have the opportunity to answer any of your questions following the closure of the public hearing, so please address it to us, not them. And the commission may ask for clarification from town staff or the applicant from those questions. All right, we're going to start with anyone online. Okay. Then, oh.
All right, Scott, you've been made a presenter. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Please state your name and address for the record. And once you do so, I will start your 3-minute timer.
Yeah, Scott down in Dillon Ridge Apartments. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Was that a yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. You know, this is a great project for the town of Dillon to bring in more housing. I think probably my biggest concern with a project like this, first of all, I don't know that the Planning Commission has enough time to digest all the information and a presentation in one meeting without additional public comment on something of this scale. And I would urge you to do a continuance of this meeting instead of an approval on something of this scale. We saw this happen before in the town of Dillon and with other projects and hastily approving a project. I guess some of my concerns are the slope of the parking lot. Increasing it to 5.25% is extremely steep. I think Ned and Dan will agree to that. I think the snow storage and the parking needs to be addressed a little bit more clear. To give you an example, my parcel has 1.77 acres and there was 36 units built on it. This parcel has 4.1 acres with 150 units built on it. So that gives you an idea of the density. One of my other concerns is going down Dillon Ridge Road. We're going to have this massive wall of apartments, and agreed there is a significant grade change there, but the roof lines are going to be continuous all the way across. And I don't know why the developer wouldn't consider stepping those down and breaking up the skyline a little bit. When we talk about workforce housing or deed restricted units with private capital, our project was built with private capital, and we deed restricted with Summit Housing Authority 18 of those units. And what that did for the council and the town is it grandfathered you in regardless of the agreement you strike with an owner, that they are being monitored with Summit County Housing Authority. And that also represents the maximum rents that can be charged. And I think that's very important because you don't want to get into a market rate situation with a developer at any point, because that means their rents can be anywhere. And to the point that was brought up earlier, you're looking for that middle range housing. Today's market rate, today's deed restricted housing is middle range, and it's very unaffordable. And I think that's why we're losing a lot of our workers. So anyhow, I would again urge you guys for a continuance so we can all discuss this a little bit further before getting too far in. Thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone else online who would like to raise their hand?
About the
Oh, we got one.
All right, Laura, you've been made a presenter. Go ahead, unmute yourself. Please state your name and address, and then we will start your 3-minute timer. For anybody else online that may want to make a public comment, feel free to raise your hand for the end of this comment, and we will go in the order that they are raised.
Thank you. My name's Laura Johnson, and I live at 334A Ensign Drive in Dillon. And I had a couple of questions, mainly about the elevation that was shown at the beginning of the presentation, because this was a lot of information and I couldn't quite follow it all. But I thought somebody said that the difference in elevation on this lot was 60 feet. And I was wondering if you could clarify if that is indeed what you said and what you're measuring to get to that 60 feet.
Laura, are you still there?
Wait, sorry, I can't hear you.
We can hear you. Laura, we're gonna come back
Oh,
to you.
there. Okay, sorry, now I can hear you. This Teams doesn't always
We have
work on
2
my
minutes.
computer. Okay. So I couldn't hear whether you said you were coming back to me because you were getting the information or whether because I couldn't hear you. All
Yeah,
right.
just keep going. You have 1 minute and 50 seconds.
That was my only question. And I just was curious if the elevation change was from the corner up to the ridge above the development, or if it was to the parking lot, because they don't own the property all the way up to the ridge. So I was trying to understand that 60 feet.
Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
I am not seeing anyone else who has raised their hand online. So with that, we're going to move on to in-person comments. Okay. If there's anyone that showed up late that wants to sign up, please do that now. Okay, we are going to start with, and I'm going to apologize for pronunciation. It's partly my fault or handwriting. So please remember to state your name and your address, and direct all comments to us, and the applicant will have a chance to answer those comments, questions after we are done. So we're going to start with Kevin Scrutch.
My name is Kevin Scrutch, 60 Lookout Ridge Drive in Dillon. I have a couple comments. First of all, the process. I agree with the first comment that things are just going too fast. By my math, it's been less than 90 days since the application. I think the conversations and the ambiguity over the height alone are enough to continue this at a minimum. But I will also say that as a resident of this community, I made every effort to participate in this. And I appreciate the developer wants to develop this, but I can tell you that I attended the Blue River Bistro meeting. I made a lot of comments. 0 of my comments are reflected in this design. It is exactly the same as it was. So I would, not to be mean, but I would say them saying that they took community input is gaslighting. So I think the community needs more input. Lots of people here would like to talk, lots of people online. They got an hour and a half. There's no way you're going to be able to get enough comments from us. I studied architecture in college. I'm a builder. I can tell you the greatest compliment you can get as an architect is for someone to tell you that your design was dictated by the site. In my opinion, this design is not dictated by the site. It is a massive wall up front, and it's dictated by the economics of the site. They need to come up with a certain number of units to meet their profitability figures. They need to meet grade. They need to meet all these things. Just because you have a difficult site to build on is no reason to grant a change in variance or a change in PUD or anything of that. They need to go back, they need to go back and refresh their design that it meets all these standards. And maybe they build a few less units. And I know that we need affordable housing and it would be great to have all these affordable housing units, but maybe we can't have everything that they brought to the table tonight. And I think it's important, I implore you, that the town of Dillon is a very special place in Colorado, one of the most special places I've been, and I'm here because I love it. And the north side of this is different than the town core. This is arguably the biggest thing we've done to the north side of Dillon in decades. And I think it deserves a lot of looking at it to make sure it's right. So, in courtesy of everybody else who wants to speak, I'm going to cut it short and just say, I don't think we're quite ready to make a decision on this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is, I think it's a Stephen Boyle.
I'm still concerned that the sign-in sheet
Wait,
for people that wanted to speak, it's not clear what they're supposed to sign. So there's a lot of people here that might, I hope, get to speak. I'm
please say
Steve
your
Boyle,
name and address.
332 Piney Acres. 3 generations of our family have lived at our home since 1995. We are directly behind the movie theater and appreciate your time. I'll start by saying I understand why housing and growth is important to Dillon. Also important is preserving our town's identity. That great photo behind you there of Lake Dillon says everything you need to know about what makes this place special to all of us. I was curious about what these meetings are like, so I reviewed earlier zoning meetings, which whoever asked, I think it was Kevin, those recordings are available on YouTube for the public view. I heard a lot about the impact of these views and how they should be considered when evaluating a project and specifically evaluating building height. So next I reviewed the staff packet and found tons of amazing analysis on parking, drainage, landscaping, snow storage, but nothing specific to the impact on our homes that are directly above and adjacent to the project. Last week, unfortunately, was the first our family and many in the neighborhood, I understand, heard about the project. And it was nice the applicant agreed to meet with us Friday. I really appreciate them taking the time to start talking about possible solutions to the impacts on our homes. One of the cool things they shared is that they completed LiDAR surveys of our land and our lots and homes. This is, if you haven't heard of this, LiDAR is a technology where they fly a drone over your property and scan everything with a laser. This gives them a highly accurate topographical scan of the lots that can be combined with photos of the lake views to produce renderings of the impact of their on our views of the apartment complex. Now, they haven't actually completed any of the renderings, but they shared that they're willing to. I don't know everything you've reviewed, but I was surprised something like this wasn't part of the package. Just today, the applicant met with us a second time. They considered our views and we discussed impacts of the design. So far, these are the only 2 meetings that happened, and these happened in the last 6 days with Piney Acres residents that I'm aware of. So I share about these meetings not only because it shows there are a lot of incomplete considerations, but also that given more time, the applicant is willing to fill in the missing parts and offer solutions to minimize the impacts. So I know you'll never have every bit of information, but before you make your recommendation, I'm asking you to continue the review long enough to have a more complete picture to confidently make the required findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up we have Kirsten Strawn.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Strawn. I live in 512 Polar Court, Silverthorne, and my family and I have lived in the county for nearly 20 years. My husband and I, we have 4 kids. Age ranges from 21 down to 13. And I'm just here to speak from my heart. We're sad to see the theater go. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Mitchell who spoke, and my heart goes out to you. And I also thank Paige West and your associates who have spoken, and it sounds like you all have tried to maintain and preserve as much as you can within the community, within your parameters, and it sounds like a lot of thought has been given to all of it. And I'm just here to share my heart that we're sad. I don't know that there's a lot we can do, but I'm here to say that and voice that if no one else will. It would be nice, and maybe you can answer this, it's kind of a question and statement, that if developers such as Page West could find it in their hearts and their pocketbooks or budgets to accommodate something, throw us a bone since you're building this, of a small theater. Could a small theater be built? Could a site be located where they could use their resources, their finances, and even do a small theater like Breckenridge had? I don't know. I'm just a regular person. I don't have a crazy amount of business experience or well-spokenness, but that's my heart. If possibly a developer could use their funds to do something like that, even if this goes through, and for the town of Dillon to consider working with developers in the future that would maybe bring in something like this, because we can't all just build housing all the time. And I know that this theater, it employed a lot of my son's friends. He's here tonight. And you know, kids hate to see something like this go. And I think it's brave of him to show up. And we've actually been contacted by CBS News Colorado. For whatever reason, we made a posting on Facebook and they reached out, and we're willing to talk. Not to say anything derogatory, but just to share our heart. So thank you for your time and your consideration. And we love this place, and we're thankful for all you guys do, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next is Anna Lee Smith.
Okay, so I did think that was a sign-in sheet, but I do have a question. Oh, Annalee Smith, 146 Royal Weber Drive, Silverthorne. I feel like everyone loves to throw around the word affordable, but what does that actually mean? Because I work for Vail Resorts, and I was a teacher before this. I'm going back to get my master's to pursue actually teaching in Summit County. I know what the pay grade looks like. I know something like this is something I can't afford. So unfortunately, when my grandparents pass and they sell their house because we can't afford it, where am I going to live? How am I going to teach these students? And what does that look like? $2,500 a month for a single bedroom? I think that's really sad. And it sucks when people want to come here and build a family and build a life because they love this opportunity that this land gives us. So yeah, I just want to know, like, is there a pay grade? Like, is there going to be a scale? Like, are we going to talk about that? What does affordability look like for everybody that wants to come here and chase their Colorado dreams? That's it.
Thank you. Olivia Keith. Oh, okay. Moving on. Christine McManus Van Guden.
Thank you to the planning commissioners for the job that you have doing this and following all of us. There's a lot of different interests here. I'm Christine McManus Von Gunden, and my family lives uphill from the proposed development on Pine Acre Circle. We first moved in when I was 5, and now my son is 17, so we've been raising him here. I did take him down to the suburbs for school down there, but we're going to be back very soon. And I love all these units that you guys have proposed. I'm also here with someone very special in addition to Mr. Mitchell. We are here with my father, Tim McManus. He helped with the original PUD. So when I grew up, it was just a field and it just had a nice gentle slope to it. There were horses, and he came up to every meeting, every public hearing, every budget meeting. He got to know everybody really well, along with a few other really hardworking residents. And So that original PUD is what we were expecting the land to stay with. We are very much a family that believes in property rights. And so that original PUD is not even included in this packet, and I'm kind of confused why, because it's an overlay, right? And so fortunately or unfortunately, I've attended dozens of rezoning meetings. I used to be a reporter in the fastest growing suburbs outside of Denver. I've also worked at the movie theater here before it was Mitchell Theaters. I worked at when it was at the town center when there were two screens and it was sustainable. I've also worked at Summit Daily News, so I've been in and out of the community my whole life. And this is not only a totally different PUD. This is not only a rezoning in disguise, which would actually put the owner through a series of different processes with stricter regulations and notifications. This is a property owner asking for a whole new PUD to get out of the existing hard-won PUD agreements for commercial use. Just because a movie theater isn't working out, there are a lot of different other ways that we could use this property and still keep it within the original PUD use. This is a huge ask for the property owner, and I respect that, but existing, what they can do is very different than what they are proposing to do. So I have a lot of questions about that. The application seems quite incomplete to me. I've read, like I said, dozens of these types of applications over the years, over the decades, and it just seems really incomplete. I know that the staff is recommending approval with some of the conditions, and I felt like there were some other conditions that were
You are at
sort of
time.
missing. Okay. Can I take my dad's 3 minutes?
Sure.
All right. I don't think anyone ever intended for this site to be residential, as evidenced by the permanent infrastructure that's existing. To upgrade the water and the sewer, it works as is for what is zoned there. But they need to upgrade it for the higher use. So I was curious about some more numbers that would be in a proposal like this about what the town's capacity is and what they're able to take on. The anti-competition clause, in my understanding from the documents that my dad still has, means if there's a taco shop, you can't open another taco shop. If there's a liquor store, you can't open another liquor store. If there's a city market, you can't open a Safeway. So I think that there's a lot of other uses that one of the things that my dad and my brother are in the business of is finding those tenants. It's not easy, but some of the uses that would still be very interesting to explore for the owner would be a gym or a daycare, tutoring centers, crafts stores. There's PT and OT needs in the county from the medical center there. And why wouldn't the town want to keep the original commercial use of entertainment? I mean, live comedy is very popular, and we could just partner with Breck for all the talents they're bringing through. I mean, Dillon has done a massive job bringing great acts to the amphitheater, and this would be something that would be year round. I mean, there's so many other things, a dance hall, skating rinks, sport training grounds. There's many other uses that are still currently allowed. So I think it's kind of a misnomer that we're saying that nothing else can be done. And just lastly, the heights that I'm seeing, I don't know if you guys looked at your application, your materials, but I had to zoom in 500%. And the numbers, I think some of my neighbors will present a better form of this, but it's more than 11 feet taller than the current existing building. And so, if we're going to take property rights seriously, we have invested in this land since 1980, and affordable housing is really important. And my last point is just that the original PUD City Market had to dig into the land. They didn't just plop the buildings on the land. They had to dig into the land. It was very expensive, but they did it. And then they had a flat site. So then you don't have as much risk for fire danger and runoff and all this other stuff. But that is what's required now, to my understanding, with the documents that my father has from all those hearings that he went to. So thank you for your time. I have a lot of other comments, but I'll put them in a letter to the town council or to the commission if this is continued. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christine. All right, next up is Doug. I'm not gonna try to say that last name. Aglietti?
I've been a Piney Acres, part of Piney Acres since I was 6 years old, so.
Oh, please state your address.
191 Piney Acre Circle and 684 Piney Acre Circle. My folks were very middle class, very poor, and they bought this property. And so for 60 years, it's been a boom and bust, and Dillon is probably one of the better models and illustrations of that. There was a bust in 69, there was a bust in 73, there was a bust in the energy crisis in 86, and then of course the financial recession in 2008. I'm a little concerned with Page West because it's hard to find information on you guys. Not that I tried to find your financials and tried to look at your balance sheets. I strongly recommend that we take our time a little with this. This is the worst thing you can do is make a hasty decision and it comes up bust. I'm a little concerned with the with who will monitor and who's the onus of responsibility for making sure that the workforce, the 30-hour a week workforce, is certainly going to be in there. It's not easy. I have an ADU. It is not easy to find those employees, of course, at a price of I don't know how much it is per month that they're saying. I heard $2,500 for a 1-bedroom. That seems extraordinarily outrageous. However, I don't know if that's true. You can correct me, but I'm a little concerned with the amount of experience you guys have and what you've done. And I live in Denver, so if you have some gallery addresses, I will certainly go take a look at that. But I really encourage y'all to take your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lou Cook.
Thank you to the committee for the opportunity to speak. My wife and I are native Coloradoans and cherish the Dillon lifestyle. Our home is located at 342 Piney Acre Circle and is one of the homes that borders the Skyline project on the north side. First, I want to be clear that we do not oppose development and investment in our community. We love this town and what it represents, and we are proud of how it has grown and flourished. We understand that cities evolve and the properties sometimes need to be repurposed. And it's great that the Skyline project includes 20% badly needed workforce housing. We're not against the project in general terms, but we are against the loss of the Dillon quality of life that the current project's design will cause for my family and the other families adjoining the project. Unfortunately, after careful review of the project details contained in the hearing meeting packet, I do not see any verified views from our primary living areas or decks of how Building 1 affects the Piney Acres homes adjacent to the project. I also have confusion about the ridge lines and peak elevations relative to the existing theater. We believe it's fair to ask for verified simulated views and clear elevations to address these questions. Using the building data in the developer package, combined with actual site images, lasers, a 30-foot tall pole that we held up, tape measures, some basic math, and 40 years of experience in the construction industry. I created some visual representations, which I submitted prior to the meeting today for this hearing. I brought 2 of these today, but I guess you all have those. I see. Thank you for holding those up. I think this is more based on hard evidence and gives a representative perspective of the proposed Building 1's direct impact on our views and privacy, especially related to the fact that the location is 35 feet further west from the theater. If you look at these images, they're the real deal. I hope the new information is helpful and will be applied as set forth in Dillon Municipal Code, Chapter 16, zoning, Article 5, planning unit development, requiring the town to evaluate the relationship of the PUD to its surroundings to consider adverse effects, including building height or bulk, visual impact, or intrusion into privacy of neighboring properties. This project, if approved without modification, directly and significantly causes each of those adverse effects cited in the code. We believe that development should improve our community, but not at the disproportionate expense of the residents who have already invested in it, or at the disproportionate benefit to developers who don't have to live with the permanent effects they leave. We respectfully ask that you require design that strikes the right balance between the developer's interest in maximizing profit and the interest in long-term quality of life of the neighboring residents.
10 seconds.
Some possible modifications, just throwing out there, slightly reduce the square footage of building 1 in order to position it more towards the theater's current location. Alter, eliminate the north-facing windows, which are in close proximity to our living room. Reducing the gap between building 1 and building 2 would also add greater open space. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lou. All right, Canu McGuire?
Hi, my name is Karen. I've lived in Piney Acres, 351 Piney Acres for 16 years. And don't you love this view, this picture? So that's what we have in Piney Acres. And I like your project and everything, but I think it is a little bit too massive for our neighborhood. It's going to impact all the wildlife that we have, the moose, the deer, the bears, everything that we have there. A 4-story building with hundreds of condos does not belong in this location. It would forever change the character of our neighborhood, block treasured views of the lake and surrounding mountains, increase traffic and noise, and destroy an important wildlife corridor that has existed for decades. The open space behind our homes is more than vacant land. It's home to deer, I said it, bears, raccoons, etc. We have been privileged to live alongside this wildlife, and we have a responsibility to protect it. I respectfully ask you to protect the unique beauty of this area and consider a much smaller, lower impact development that better fits our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, Brian Mitchell, would you like to speak again? Perfect. Kevin Scrooge, did I get to it twice? Okay. Elena Scott. Oh. Arch Payne?
He was for the sign.
Oh, got it. Harry Van something, Van Coy? Okay. Christine Holt. All right. Kirsten, nope, you already went. Rachel Bender. Got it. David Blake. Got it. Debbie Sao.
All right, thanks for the opportunity to speak. Debbie Sabo, and my parents, David and Nancy Boyle, own the property at 332 Piney Acres. First, thanks to everyone that's worked on this proposal. I appreciate the willingness of the committee and Page West to engage in some productive conversation about this project. I believe this is a unique opportunity to demonstrate how growth and collaboration with the community can come together. I'd like to say that I understand the need of the workforce housing. I support responsible growth for Dillon, but my concern is that with growth that we don't lose sight of the residents who will most directly be affected by this development. Again, as with the other residents of Piney Acres, my family's owned this property for more than 30 years. My mother and father are in their mid-80s and have seen many changes in the neighborhood, like the movie theater, which we enjoyed. The lake and mountain views from our property are part of why we chose to come here and why this property has remained in our family for 3 generations. In fact, as my parents are becoming less active, the views from the living room and the outside deck are the main joys that they still have when they're still here. So as currently proposed, this project appears likely to significantly reduce what remains of the Dillon Lake views for our home and for our community. Once they're gone, they cannot be restored. And my ask is that the committee seriously and carefully consider opportunities to reduce the project's impact on the neighboring properties in Piney Acres. And so I'm requesting a continuance as well. We met with Zach and Adam today, and they're going to provide us with some additional information, which would be very helpful for us. So we need some time for that. And I also would like to read something from the comprehensive plan that I don't know if it was addressed at all in the project report. But one of the goals is to preserve and foster the unique nature, physical and man-made characteristics, and cultural aspects of Dillon. One of the policies says to establish criteria within this Chapter 16 zoning to encourage new projects to be designed as they do not block views to prominent features such as Dillon Reservoir, picture behind you, Roberts Peninsula, and other natural man-made features. Finally, I just want to say that we want our future generations to enjoy this home just as we have. The unique mountain and lake views are what make it truly special. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tony Camarata?
Thank you. I'm Tony Camarata. I live at 712 Belford Street in Frisco. I'm the Vice President of Planning and Development at the Arapahoe Basin Ski Area, and twice the recipient of Summit Housing Authority Workforce Housing. It's the reason I've been able to serve this community for 30 years on various nonprofit boards, the 10 Mile Planning Commission. It's great to see all of you work together and really review this and take the staff consideration into. The reason I'm here to voice our business's support is because the workforce housing issue is urgent. It is not just important. If we want to keep people like myself in the community who are going to contribute for a long time, this is an opportunity that I don't think we should overlook or pass or kick down the road too much. The fact that priority will be given to the workforce, and for us, the reason why we support it in the Snake River Arm, especially, so that we could have our workers in a centralized place right next to Summit Stage, right next to the retail opportunities, and to be able to contribute to the town of Dillon and be away from the town core in a place that seems to be appropriate for this sort of density. You know, our staff at the ski area, we need diverse housing. Not everyone wants to live in Tenderfoot when they're a lift operator. You know, we are looking to recruit and retain, for example, a chef from the Front Range who can afford a little bit more than a lift operator in Tenderfoot, or somebody who's in light tech housing and at a lower AMI. So we would just ask that you consider this project. It ticks a lot of boxes that we think is beneficial to a lot of the larger employers and some of the smaller employers in the county. We're hoping at a basin that we're trying to reduce the dependence of not just our citizens, but our guests on vehicles. And we think that this project could do that. We think that public transportation, its central location, We like to go and pick up our staff in centralized locations. We run our own shuttles for staff. This would be perfect. We're already doing it in this area. And instead of going out in the marketplace and finding 2 and 3 bedroom condos where those prices still go through the roof, we don't have any control of those rents either. I think this would be a great opportunity to partner with Page West so that we could have some of our staff at A-Basin in a place where they could also contribute for years to come in this community. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Jeremy Dumont.
Jeremy Dumont, 4030 Silver Hills Drive, Silverthorne, Colorado. I'm up here just representing myself. Probably not a lot of people like me have come here, so I think it's a worthwhile voice. I moved up here in January from Denver. I'm a Coloradan native. I'm from Denver, but I got a job up here at Sonoma Daily. And I will just start by saying it was not an easy time finding a place to rent up here. It took me a couple of months. I was living on my friend's spare bedroom for a while. And yeah, it's pretty limited. And I agree with Tim and that it's unfortunate that we're in this position, but it's definitely an urgent need that I don't know, hasn't really been addressed. And I think some issues more that we should be talking about is like, yeah, is it affordable? Like she brought up, because that's a valid question. I mean, I understand residents that live behind there and stuff. We want to minimize the impact, and it's hard to balance everything, but it's never going to be perfect. There's only so much space here, right? We don't have empty lots everywhere to just build up. So it's kind of a hard decision, but like I think it's something. It's right in the center of town. That would be nice. I live all the way up in Wilderness, right? It's hard to get to work. You know, it's just a lot of things do make sense. Some things might not make sense for some residents, but you just got to think about everything and try to make a decision right. And I don't want to rush into anything, but like, you know, it definitely is something that should be addressed soon. And, you know, there's probably not, you know, other huge housing projects like this proposed, or if there is, I'm not aware of ones for rent and stuff. And I think the deed restricting component of it's very important. And I think that should be, I don't know, if anything, that should be upped, you know, like that's something I'm more concerned about than like, you know, if my view is obstructed from Lake Dillon and stuff or whatever. So just some different viewpoints for you to think about, because I don't think there's a lot of people here that probably feel similar to me, but are just not going to show up to a town hall meeting like this. So thanks for letting me speak. And yeah.
Thank you. Ellie Murray.
Good evening, Ellie Muncie, 14 Bridle Alley, Breckenridge, for the record. I come to comment on the Skyline Apartments development plan. This parcel is currently located within a mixed-use zone district in the Dillon Ridge Marketplace PUD, which allows residential as a secondary use and requires that the commercial use not conflict with existing commercial uses. In processing this as a new PUD to allow the 100% residential use, you are essentially granting a variance to the site rather than pushing the developer to include a commercial use to meet the existing PUD that the parcel is currently located in. Additionally, including a commercial use in the parcel would help transition the largely commercial area to the surrounding residential area. In integrating a commercial aspect to the project, the parcel could be redeveloped to support both the existing movie theater and the proposed housing. The Skyline Cinema is essentially Summit County's only movie theater. While there is the Eclipse Theater in Breckenridge, it's a one screen with limited showings on limited days. And if the Skyline closes, the closest multi-screen movie theater is either a 48-minute drive to the west or a 59-minute drive to the east. The Skyline Movie Theater is an essential part of Summit County and provides an alternative for our younger residents and high schoolers by offering something for them to do on the days with poor weather or when they want to go see the latest new movie instead of potentially getting into trouble. It's also an indoor entertainment option for adult residents in Summit County that's not focused on drinking. The Skyline Movie Theater is a community space in Summit County where friends can get together to see a movie or a couple can go on a date. It's an essential part of the community and would be an incredible loss to see it close. While in comparison, this theater has seen less revenue than other Mitchell theaters, it's not a fair comparison as the Skyline is serving one community where it's essentially this or nothing. Losing the Skyline is losing the revenue and sales tax that comes with it. And one of the town of Dillon's goals is to provide stewardship of Dillon's amenities. This is an amenity for the town, and the town should work to save and support the Skyline Theater in conjunction with any potential housing development. Thank you.
Thank you.